Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. I hope you've had a great week. Mine was pretty good, pretty low key. I actually only worked about 45 hours this week instead of over 50, so that was really a nice change of pace for me. Um, yeah, it's been a pretty good week here. My husband's doing good. We've got no complaints really. I've got another visit set up to see him on the 15th of August, so next Sunday. Of course, I'm very excited, as always. I'm very hopeful that my mom will be available to go with me on this visit. She has not actually met him yet, so I mean, my birthday's coming up, so that would be a great birthday present for me, for her to meet him and see, just who I fell in love with. Because for all they know, he's a figment of my imagination until they actually see him in person. It's like, I think, going to be more real. So, with all of that aside, I thought I'd take a few minutes today to talk about the prison system and how they've handled the COVID-19 pandemic. It's been a long year and a half, to be honest, really, since all of this started, and scary. Just a lot of difficult times. So, just to get right into it here. Last January, at the time I was working in travel insurance, and that's when we first really started getting the reports in of this new illness. And at the time I was telling people, oh, it's a coronavirus, the common cold is a coronavirus, it's no big deal. And then people started dying. At the time I thought, oh, it's not really that big of a deal. It is. I know some extended family members that have passed away from it. So, but I'm not here to debate. I'm not here to debate that. It's a real thing, and it's a scary thing. So, back in March, as things really, March of 2020, so last year, things really started to pick up here in the U.S. And that's when things really started to shut down. And towards the end of March last year, all of the prisons, probably everywhere, but definitely in our state, prisons, jails, stopped. They just stopped all visits, which, for the safety of our loved ones, I completely was okay with it. Not knowing when I was going to see him again, of course, was really hard, but want my husband and the other men and women to be safe. And then, of course, in July of last year, that was when we started getting our Zoom visits, which are not ideal, but better than nothing. So we had several months of Zoom visits. But I digress. It's not really the topic here. When the first, when the COVID pandemic first hit the U.S. and they shut down visits, it should have been virtually guaranteed to keep our loved ones safe. The only people that time were essential prison staff that were coming and going. And so it should have been relatively easy to keep it out, right? You would think. But almost immediately we were hearing from our loved ones. I was hearing from my husband and other friends. The corrections officers were not wearing masks, even though they were supposed to. There's a mask mandate. There was not hand washing. They weren't doing any hand washing of themselves or, really disinfecting things. I myself wrote to our governor, the Department of Corrections secretary here, and even the administrator of the Department of Corrections. I got one form letter back in response, and to be honest, I stopped writing because I was afraid that there would be repercussions for my husband if I continued to pursue it. But the staff was not wearing. In the visiting rooms, when we're there now, they're wearing their masks. But behind the scenes, when we're not there, they're still not doing it. Our loved ones are still at risk. It's made me very, very angry because they don't see our loved ones as human beings. They see them as less valuable than cats or dogs at a shelter. They don't see our loved ones' lives as having value, which they do to their family, their friends. So there's a lot of guards coming and going and doing whatever the hell they wanted to, not wearing masks. And of course, it didn't take long for COVID to get its way into the prison. And they had stopped all inmate transfers between facilities for several months. So it wasn't like they were, carrying this from facility to facility. There's no one else who could have brought this in but the corrections officers. And they would, when our loved ones would go up to them and ask them to please put their mask on properly, they'd say, well, I don't know what you're worried about. You guys are the ones who brought it in here. And get an attitude about it. So, I mean, to me, that speaks volumes of how they see our loved ones. They see them as garbage. Excuse me. They see our loved ones as garbage. And, like I said, I wrote to the governor, the secretary of the Department of Corrections, the administrator of the prisons here. I got one form letter in response. Wrote to the judge in charge of my husband's case asking for him to be compassionately released. Of course, they have no interest in doing that either because he has asthma. He's considered to be higher at risk for, lung conditions. But of course, there's no such thing. You can be on your deathbed in absolutely zero danger and not be granted a compassionate release. It's sickening. At any rate, it still makes me angry about how they've handled things, but I don't want my husband to be at risk of retaliation because I've advocated for him. Another thing, is our loved ones are still required. My husband's still required to wear a mask while he's out of his cell. But they are now getting allowed a little bit more freedom, so they can now eat meals in their day room instead of in their cell, which is, they're not real big, they're, real tiny. It's not real conducive to eating a meal. But they're at least allowed a little bit more freedom. They are getting some rec time outdoors, 2 units at a time, certain days. They are being allowed to go outside and use the rec field, so there's a little bit more freedom. I am a little bit afraid with this Delta variant and the fact that the surge events are going on, like Wisconsin State Fair. There's going to be a lot of transmission of the new variant. There's going to be a lot of new cases, and I'm very fearful that our in-person visits are going to be shut down again because of that. It scares me to death, and it goes back to when we did get married. excuse me, and I know my throat's so dry. When we did get married, I was, you know, the reason I went through it now instead of waiting till he came home is because we were terrified that something might happen to one of us. I'm still very fearful. Now, one of the good things about this is he did have the opportunity to be vaccinated, which he now is fully vaccinated. I'm fully vaccinated. Most of my immediate family is vaccinated, which I'm extremely grateful for. So there's still a possibility that we'll get sick. We haven't had COVID in my immediate family yet, but it's still definitely a possibility. And at least it will hopefully not be a severe illness. So I have a lot of faith that things will be okay. One of the things, you know, getting away from COVID a little bit, but getting, you know, behind the scenes of what happens in these prisons, there is not, you know, you probably think that it's just free medical care. They get, you know, taken care of really well and all this and that, and that's our taxpayer dollars at work. That is not the case. Back before my husband got transferred in his prior facility, this is a not something that's confirmed. Of course, the prison will not confirm this. They will deny it. Deny, as they do. One of the other inmates went to their HSU, the hospital unit, 3 or 4 times in one day complaining of chest pain. And every time that he went in, they told him, "You're fine, go lay down, whatever. Just go, you know, you're fine. Hold a muscle, whatever." Well, ultimately, the gentleman died of a heart attack due to lack of medical care. They will, I'm sure, disappear some paperwork and make it like it was just, you know, like it never happened. Because that's what they do. They'll get really angry at me for saying this, but that's what they do. They deny all responsibility, and you can't take any action because you can't prove it. What are they going to do? Take the word of an inmate over the word of the staff? Of course not. And things like this happen all the time. I'm going to post a link down below. This is actually to the Wisconsin Department of Corrections COVID-19 page. Documents all of their cases that they've had in various facilities. You will notice that they will not disclose any deaths. They will not confirm any deaths because they don't want to take responsibility. And you know it is their responsibility because they had every opportunity to prevent the introduction of COVID-19 into the prisons, and they failed miserably. Prison staff, the corrections officers, and the administration in this great state, as you see I'm rolling my eyes, had every opportunity to keep our loved ones safe, and they did not. They don't care. So I can't tell you, you know, how many deaths there have been because they will not confirm it. But it's really sad. Regardless of how you feel about it, vaccination saves lives, masking saves lives, and my loved one deserves to live. He deserves to, you know, be able to come home in a few years and create a life, despite his mistakes. Getting back into the, you know, how the prisons are not adequately taking care of our loved ones. The Milwaukee House of Corrections, if you do a Google search, you'll find this, and I can post a link to that article as well. Not last winter, but the winter before, I believe, in 2018, They had a power outage and without power for several days, 10 days maybe, 2 weeks. And their inmates did not have heat. They did not have running water. They didn't have toilets. I mean, it was very, very cold here. There was no heat, no running water for days, up to 2 weeks, and it's like they didn't even care. These are human beings. Human beings get less rights than an animal at the zoo. It's very, very sad. And people may say, oh, they did the crime, they should do the time. Well, they are doing their time, but they don't deserve to be treated like scum on the bottom of your shoe either. They deserve a chance to come out into the community and be productive members of society. And I will always advocate for rehabilitation over incarceration, because if punishment worked as so well, we would need fewer prisons instead of more. They wouldn't be filled to over capacity. We're doing something wrong, and it needs to be fixed. And it's not going to be fixed by building more prisons. There has to be some rehabilitation efforts, education, job skills, mental health care, substance abuse care. Those are the kind of things that will make them productive members of society, not just locking them away and throwing away the key. I feel very passionately about this, and you may disagree with me, but stop, take one moment to just consider this could be your son or daughter or sibling, aunt, uncle, cousin, parent. And I think that you would want them treated with the same basic human rights as the rest of us enjoy. I know it's a tall order, but nobody ever wants to think like that. Oh, it's not my loved one, so who cares? I'm always going to make enemies for saying that. But rehabilitation over punishment. Anyway, I could go off on that all day, believe it or not. But being with my husband, being in prison, I feel very strongly about the way things are in there, and they're not good. Not good at all. So, it would be a great time to advocate for change, to support rehabilitation efforts. Volunteer. If you belong to a church, go in as a spiritual advisor or chaplain. Teach a program like knitting. Teach them a craft. Give them something productive to do with their time. It's going to make all the difference in the world. Show them that somebody does care. That's all most of them want. I really enjoyed, of course, having you here watching these videos. I hope that you'll go ahead down below, leave some comments. If there's anything that you're interested in hearing more about, please let me know. I'm happy to talk about anything. My life's an open book. If you have any questions for my husband, of course, by all means, leave them below, and I will be happy to pass them along. Please go ahead and hit the like button. Let me know that you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe, and also click the bell icon so that you're notified of new videos. And please do check out my Facebook page, Prison Wife Diaries, because I do have some new transparencies listed that will be available for making new cards. And I would certainly be happy to make somebody's day for you by creating one, just for you. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next week.